It is December 3rd, about 60 degrees. Seeing a lot of activity out of Hive 4, which is this closer one. They actually have some pollen that they're either pushing out. No, they're bringing in pollen. Yeah, there's pollen on this one right here. The Hive 3, there's a fair amount of activity. Hive 1 has some activity. Not seeing any activity out of Hive 2, which is this one right here. And then looks like Nuke 1 has bees, and there's a lot of activity, and Nuke 2 has no activity right now. But we'll take a look at those a little bit later. Oh, I'm seeing bees coming out of Nuke 2 right now. Looks like there's one about to land. Yeah. So Hive 2 is the only one that I haven't questioned. I'll look at that a little bit later. Check back. A little bit later in the day here, we got a lot of flight activity on the first nuke. Probably a lot of cleansing flights because they haven't been able to be out for a little while. The second nuke there are some bees coming and going, but not as many as this first one. And then over to the hives. The furthest one is Hive 1. And it's got some activity. Hive 2 now has activity. And then Hive 3 has a fair amount of activity as well. And then Hive 4 does as well. And they're pulling in pollen today. Not sure where they're getting it from, but it's still out there somewhere. I'm getting into Hive 3. This is one that just has a shim on it. Just gonna insulation. I just have a little tab to be able to pull these out. It's just 3 layers. One's a little smaller, so it fits in here. And now you can see the bees are not clustered. They were out flying today. I'm gonna pause for a second for the plane to go over. All right, back to the lots of bees in this box. I mean, I see them on every seam. And they're still active, so they're not really clustering. And right in the middle, there's a broodminder sensor. It's right here. And then still quite a bit of heat, and there's no condensation or anything on even on the edges here. And the insulation's keeping that off. But that's it. I'm gonna peek in one more here. And with the 3 layers, it fits underneath this shim here. I just got that from Better Bee, so if I was to make my own, I would make them thick enough to have the 2-inch piece of rigid insulation, and then I've got Reflectix underneath the top. Put this back together and get on the next hive. I'm gonna jump into Hive 1. Hive 1 is the heaviest. It's still in the 160s. Just judging by the rest, I bet you there's still quite a bit of bees in here. Oh yeah, interesting. Okay, so this is a little different. So the bees are only in this section. Now, there is condensation here. I'm seeing this. There is condensation, so I may not have that pushed down hard enough to not leave a gap, but there's none over top of the bees. So, like I said, it's just over in this corner here and along the edge. And as soon as I put this on, they built a lot of bridge comb, so they were still kind of in building mode when I did that. Which makes me think I could have left the supers on for a little bit longer. This over here is a clump of propolis, and I just stuck it in there to see if they would reuse it. And it looks like they're now pulling pieces off of it to reuse. And there's my broodminder. I recommend cutting the tails off, because if you leave the tails long, it leaves a really good spot for hive beetles to hide underneath. But leaving it short, it stays out of the way, and they propolize it to the frame, so when you pull the frame, it just sticks with it, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to peel it off, you don't have to move it or anything. It just stays on there. The only issue is sometimes the ones that are between the 2 boxes stick to the bottom of the next frame. A small price to pay. But yeah, I see bees in all the seams. here. Yeah, there's even bees in the seams that have a little bit of moisture. So we'll just need to make sure that we get that insulation on there nice and tight. And keep an eye on that as it gets colder. This is a look in the hive too. Again, this is insulation. It is painted, it's just pink insulation. Oops. It just fits rather snugly in there, but interesting. Similar situation. There's a little bit of moisture right in here. Not sure if you can see that or not. There's no moisture anywhere else. Again, there's no top ventilation on these clear hives, or these clear inner covers. And I see bees all the way out to the outside frame. Got a little bridge comb, doing okay. Yeah, there's a good bit of heat coming through here. Put that back together. It just sits down in there. Sorry for the lighting, doing this at night, but yeah, trying to do it with my phone too. This is Nuke 1. Put the Reflectix up in the lid, and again we have a shim with a piece of, it just has a small 1/2-inch sheet. Not many bees in this 5 deep. I have not seen many bees in the top. Now these are completely filled and capped with honey. As soon as I put this screen in here too, they completely propolised that shut. So there's no ventilation at all. I also put screens on the front of these, and they propolised those shut. So there's just some bees here and there, and they're just patrolling, but the rest of the bees must be down lower. They're not ready to eat through these doors yet, which is good. This is a look into Nuke number 2. Interesting, a little different situation here. So they didn't propolize everything up yet. And there's bees here in the middle. Can't tell. I mean, there's some bees all the way across here. We do have a little moisture along the edge, along this edge, and along that edge. There's a fair amount of bees up this high. That makes me curious as to what's going on between this hive and the other hive. This hive does have a medium on it, which the other hive does not. Again, these are my nukes. So this is a triple deep plus a medium, so it's really 4 deep, 4 boxes total. And that's all I'm going to check for now. Just a quick look inside, and this is with 2 inches of insulation on top. There is moisture on that inner cover, and it sits down snug on this. I thought most of it would be around the edge, but there is a little bit along the top. There's not enough to condense and put drops on them, but it's not that cold yet, so it could get worse. "51 degrees today. Girls have been flying since it's been in the mid-40s. But I'm seeing them everywhere. Seeing them in the leaves, seeing them on the ground, seeing them getting water from anywhere they can get. I'm seeing a lot of pollen coming in, especially on this first hive. See if I can zoom in and catch any of that. Second hive is really buzzing. Oh, there's some pollen coming in. It's underneath the. Oh, there's one that came in with a lot of pollen. pollen. So there's still pollen out there. I put some pollen substitute out, but none of them are taking it, so there must be some things still blooming out there somewhere. I saw camellia blooming the other day. And the nukes are flying well too. This is the first 60-degree day after the really cold weather. All the bees are out. They're all in the air. They're everywhere. See them resting in different places in the sun, but it looks like all the hives are active and everybody's alive at this point in the winter. And then these nukes here also have some activity. Maybe not as much as the larger hives. I'm not sure if the configuration makes it harder for them to overwinter as far as the heat. Got them in 3 deeps, and I left a medium on that second nuke, and that was probably a mistake, but a lesson that I will learn from if it is a mistake. I'm gonna go over and look at some pollen extract that I put out, pollen substitute that I put out. Pollen substitute I put out here. Looks like the girls have found it. Quite a bit of activity on it this morning. I guess this afternoon now. About 60 degrees out here right now. It's interesting, I don't see them coming out with pollen on their legs. I just see them covered in it. Like the static is how they're carrying it out, just the static hairs all over their bodies. Not sure if you can see that or not. A lot of their abdomens are just covered in it. Just another view of the bees. Looks like a lot of them are taking cleansing fights, just hanging out in the sun here. It's first hives, extremely busy. All my hives actually face north, but they're in a position where the backs of the hives are facing to the south, so the sun can hit them all through the winter. We got the little winter harvest here from a greenhouse. Got 3 Washington navel oranges and a really big lemon out of our greenhouse here. Find our greenhouse where we keep all our bees, and our nukes are just beyond that. Sun's starting to go down. A couple of the little overhangs blew off, but I always try to clean this to see how many bees get thrown out. Looks like hive number 3's got quite a few bees that have been that perished during that cold weather and got kicked out of the hive there. definitely some under hive 4. 1 and 2 doesn't seem to be as much over there where the chicken is, but they could be strong enough that they were actually carrying them off. And then the nukes, so definitely some under the first hive and some under the second nuke as well. And they're still out flying. Tomorrow's supposed to be rainy, so they probably won't be out much.